Me again, and I see that you found your way to the first week's content. So you are doing just fine. You're rolling along. So let's talk about what this class is about. So, what is research? And most of us use the word research to describe the simple act of looking up information. For example, if you were buying a new car, you might say that you researched a few different models to compare and figure out which one best fit what you were looking for. However, in this class, research means something different. It's the process by which we create new knowledge and decide that it is true. For example, right now we have a pandemic going on, and we're seeing a lot of research into what medicines may work and how, or what kinds of vaccines may work. And so this kind of research isn't just looking stuff up, like my car example. Instead, it's about conducting an experiment with established processes and methods. Scientists create new knowledge that certain medicines work or don't based on conducting that controlled experiment and following a particular method in that experiment. And then we can say that those results are indeed facts. And so we can apply that logic to any new knowledge. In the sports world, for example, which is what I study, we know that the height of referees affects the player's perception of authority that they have. So, why we need to know that, I don't know, but it's a fun fact that has been found. So the taller the referee, the more that players perceive them as having authority. And like I said, it's just a fun fact, may not mean much, but it was found through conducting an experiment where somebody measured the height of referees, and then they gave a survey to players asking how they felt about that referee's authority, and then they compared the survey answers based on the different heights of the referees. So because they used an experiment and used that process to find out that fun fact, we can say it's true. So you can see why research methods are appropriate, especially in today's pandemic crisis. If we have facts circulating that aren't gotten through appropriate methods and experiments, then it might not be true. If it hadn't been tested, how do we know that information is true? So you can see how this can be very dangerous, especially now. So what does that have to do with this class? This class is a crash course in those methods of finding new knowledge. And there is an established process by which we find new knowledge, and we'll be going through that. So there are different steps. First, we're going to come up with a research question that we can test. For example, to what extent do face masks protect from COVID-19 transmission? Then we come up with some background information, which we also call a literature review. So it's background information to catch us up on what we already know or don't know about that topic. So, for example, have face masks been studied in the flu? How did they work with the flu virus? So knowing that background information might help us to make some guesses as to how masks might work with COVID-19. So we're getting some background info to familiarize ourselves with what we know and what we still need to find out. And then we design our experiment. So who are the participants going to be? How are we going to even get them to do an experiment? What are we going to measure? Are we measuring transmission rates? Okay, if so, how are we going to measure them? Are we going to do the testing? Okay, so those are the questions we answer then with the methods part. So those methods, how our experiment is done, are pretty detailed. So detailed, in fact, that someone could come along and replicate your study, just like you did it, the same way you did it. So those are a few of the steps in the process that we're going to be studying. And we're going to learn some important terms associated with each step, like variables and validity. We're also going to create a research question that you might be able to use for your own master's thesis if you're writing one. So a lot of the assignments build up to creating a measurable research question in an area of your own interest, and then developing some background knowledge on it, as well as a method to measure and answer that question. So this first chapter, we're going to kind of start at the beginning. We're going to talk a little bit about the overall process, and we're going to talk about some research ethics. And you have quite a few assignments that are due this week, and they're kind of smaller assignments. It's some quizzes and some chapter reactions. No paper writing or anything this week yet. We're going to save that for the later weeks. So there are a lot of assignments due this week. So please look at your course calendar, and you are, as I mentioned in the Start Here section, you are going to have to work at this a little bit every day. So be aware that there are some things due Wednesday and Friday and Sunday. And so also remember, when you're looking at the due date calendar and the course calendar in your syllabus, that where it says the due date, that due date is at the end of the day. So 11:59 p.m. on that date listed is when your Blackboard is going to shut that assignment off for you. So be aware that the due date means you have until the end of that day. So great to see you here in the course content. Have a good week. I will be in contact with you pretty much most days of the week, so feel free to holler at me just for whatever reason. It's all good. So I hope you're going to have a great week. It'll be a good one, and I'll talk to you soon.